I've been on this journey a mighty long time.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Connections, and I'm your host, Pastor Kevin McGee, Temple Church of God in Christ. You're listening to us on IntellectualRadio.com. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio. Connections, a show designed to keep you connected and network to those in the Christian community who are making impacts and strides. So get ready because your connection is established. If you wish to become a connection sponsor, please reach out to me at bishop1915 at gmail.com or inbox me on Facebook. Nature Sunshine. The year is almost over. Have you met your weight loss goals for 2019? Would you like a natural approach to weight loss? Do you want to see and feel changes immediately? Do you take medication for high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, fibromyalgia, cancer, arthritis, or any other condition in your body? Do you have poor circulation, frequent colds, flu, or chronic fatigue? Or perhaps you just want to maintain a healthy body? Give Nature Sunshine a try. They have many products and plans that will assist you in losing weight and maintaining and improving your health the natural way. You can reach out to them at 708-302-5655. And if you want to be healthy on the outside with a fantastic skincare system, or perhaps you just love a free facial, you can also contact them for your Mary Kay needs as well. Feel good on the outside, feel good on the inside, look good on the outside. The Bedrock Movement affirms safety, comfort, dignity, awareness, and empowerment for Chicagoland street homeless. For any internship needs for schools, community services that are mandated from the court, or you just want to volunteer assisting the street homeless, please reach out to John Netherly at 773-567-5110. And today, we're starting a brand new segment. We're going to talk about death and dying and being prepared for it. And we are with my friend and my sister, Jerry Taylor. And this segment is called Ask Mrs. Mortician. Now, you know me. I got to do something that is just out the box. Ask Mrs. Mortician. The Bible said let the dead bury the dead, but we need somebody to bury the dead. and a lot of our people in especially the African American community, we're not always prepared when it comes to final preparations, when it comes to death and dying. Listen, it is our desire at the end of the day, you won't have to resort to a GoFundMe page to bury your loved one, but that you will have the proper steps to take to prepare for the death of a loved one or yourself. And so we're going to ask Mrs. Mortician. Listen, those of you question for Jerry, you can just simply put it in the comment field. For those of you that would like to call in with questions, you can call in at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. And let's get started. God bless you, Jerry. How are you?
Good. How are you, Pastor?
I'm doing good. Listen, everybody, I've been trying to get her in the studio for almost 2 years. She is busy because, Saturday is one of the biggest days for funerals.
Undertaking day.
Undertaker day. All right. I don't know. Matter of fact, I was just coming down the studio and there was a funeral going down Roosevelt Road, and it was slow because they had a horse and carriage, and it was a Caucasian funeral. I seen so many cars. I'm like, oh my God! But they were going to Oak Ridge Cemetery, and I'm sitting here waiting to turn into the parking lot. But Earl, you should have seen. I mean, the guys had the big hats on and the long coats, and they had the hearse, on the the body on the wagon. But Saturdays are big days for funerals. Mm-hmm. And so we have you.
I'm here.
Thank you for coming, Mrs. Mortician. And I've been knowing you for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And you have been dealing with the dead for a long time.
Long time.
So thank you for, again, being here with us. And before we get started, give us a little background of who you are, what you do. Mm-hmm. And where you go to church, all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, as you said, my name is Jerry Taylor, and I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer here in the state of Illinois. A little bit about me. I'm an alum of Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies. As well as Worsham College of Mortuary Science. So that's where I completed my studies for the funeral industry and gained my degree. And pretty much right now, I'm a full-time licensed funeral director and embalmer. So that is what I do from day to day. And I am an adjunct faculty member at Malcolm X College. So I teach in the mortuary program. So I'm helping to develop others that want to become funeral directors. So it is a very interesting industry, and I'm helping to put my print on it.
And one thing about it, you will always need somebody in the mortuary field. That's
Hmm.
one industry that's not going to close down, shut up, go bankrupt, or anything like that, because as long as people are being born, people are dying. And so you always need that, and we need more African Americans
Hmm.
in this field. What made you, out of all the things that you could have done, coming out of Northern, you said Northern?
Northern Illinois
It's hard for
University.
me to remember Northern because I didn't count Northern as that high on the scale. But
Go Huskies.
go Huskies, yeah, go somewhere. Uh, my daughter just said, I'm going to fill out the application with Northern. I said, why?
Yep.
I don't want to offend all my Northern Illinois students out there and alums. But out of all the things that you could have gone into, what made you decide to go into mortuary science?
To be honest with you, it never really fit in my flow of life. After I graduated from high school, I got accepted to Northern, and even as a young girl, like 9 years old, I can remember I just liked what funeral directors did. I liked the way they kind of walked, they talked, they dealt with families. They were patient, they were kind. One of the biggest contributors to me actually being in this industry is Mr. Vernon Wallace. The late Mr. Vernon Wallace.
Yes.
He passed away just a few years ago, but he had a big impression on me. And I would actually go and visit him. I would find myself at the funeral home hours on end, just watching him, studying him. Um, and even after I graduated from college, I got a job in the corporate world, and it was going okay. There was a time where they kind of cut back hours and they kind of cut us back a little bit. And I told him about it. I was at his place to view a loved one, and I told him about it. And he said, "Well, the minute something happens that you don't like or it doesn't go your way, come and see me." And it did happen that I got laid off, and I went to tell him about it. And he said, "This is a desk. This is a phone. Have a seat." And from there, I was answering phones and a receptionist at the funeral home, and I never left. From there, I ended up going to mortuary school. I went to Worsham College, and I've been running with it ever since. And it's been very great for myself and my family. I've been able to help families to kind of navigate through death, through dying, through those times, and it's just been a good ministry for myself.
Awesome. And Vernon Wallace was a giant in the industry. I remember when he was on the West Side, Wallace West End Funeral Homes, and then he moved
Hmm.
out to Broadview, and he handled Wallace Funeral Homes handled most of the funerals for my home church, Metropolitan. So I knew Vernon very
Hmm.
well. I've actually had the privilege of being in the hearse with him as he's going to do funerals, and then he has to take it on. He before he came out to Broadview, he would take the hearse and put it in the storage area on the west side of Chicago. I'm like, but Vernon was a good man, very kind, spirited person,
Hmm.
and he built something great in Wallace Funeral Homes. And actually, it's right next door to my church.
All right.
But we just thank God for your willingness to heed His advice,
Hmm.
because I've had to call on you
You have.
over the
Yeah.
past few years. You've handled things for my family, my wife's family, and so we've had to call on you, and you do great work. Everybody, listen. If you need someone to take care of your loved ones, call Jerry. Trust me, she does fantastic work. And I know it sounds kind of creepy, but she will do your loved one proud. I mean, she will make them look natural as best as she's able to, and she will give you top notch service, and you don't always get that. Shout out to those that's watching on Facebook Live: Vania Perry, Linda O'Neill, Kelly Cattonhead. Kelly says family and dolphin love. Yes, right. Whitney and Dolphin. Kelly, my wife, Dr. Karen McGee. Um, God bless all of you. Latanya, Truth Hinton, Gina Whitehead, V. Tyson. God bless you. Thank you for watching. If any of you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to type them in the comment field. And those of you that want to call in, 708-223-8953. We're at this juncture in our year, the time of the year where the holidays are here.
Hmm.
You have people who have their loved ones have gone on,
Hmm.
and so they're remembering. And even just in the past few days, we lost some people over the holidays. We lost the Reverend Dr. Clay Evans, a giant in the gospel music industry, a giant in the city of Chicago. We lost the mother of a good friend of mine. We lost Mother Evelyn Jones. Just both of those. Mother Jones died the day before. Both of them died the day before Thanksgiving. I just got information about um, another woman, a mother who died. Just got that word this morning. I got word yesterday of somebody that died. So death does not take a holiday.
No, it doesn't.
Death doesn't take Thanksgiving off, doesn't take Christmas off, doesn't take any day off. And so, in your experience, how how do people who have lost loved ones, because you do grief counseling as well, right?
Correct.
How can you advise someone who's lost their loved one and this is their first holiday without them?
My first advice would be don't be alone. Don't be alone. Surround yourself with family members and friends, those that love you, those that care for you. Um, and even as you said, shout out to my cousin Kelly and my cousin Kimber. They've recently lost their mother. And so I've also expressed to them, don't be alone. Uh, Surround yourself with people, like minded people, your family, your friends. Um, Occupy your time. That's a big one for me. Occupy your time. Well, they say the idle mind is the devil's playground. So, don't sit at home, don't lay in the bed. Kind of do something. Make this time, this holiday season worth something in memory of your loved one. So definitely, I would say get out, do things that you enjoy, do things that you enjoyed with that loved one. For me, for my aunt Dara, for us, it was, kind of getting together because her birthday was Christmas Day, getting together and eating, talking, shopping. So that's what we did. This Thanksgiving, we got together. Kelly came over. We ate, we talked, we, played a few games and, we may do some shopping, but we did the things still we carried on in her memory. And it was a true testament to her. And that's how we honored, in our family, that's how we honor those. And that's what we do, especially at times in the holiday season.
All right, so do not sit in your room with the curtains drawn, the lights off, and the TV off, because you will find yourself in a state of depression that's very hard to come up out of.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get to the heart of the matter, Mrs. Mortician. I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of people, they have not prepared to die.
Correct.
All right, they have not prepared, and what I mean by that, they have not made preparations.
Mm-hmm.
There's no life insurance policy. There's no burial insurance. Nothing has been done. There's no will. There's nothing. Um, Tell us, what is it about pre-need arrangements? What is it that everybody can benefit from? Because I might not be able to afford life insurance.
That is true.
So when we're talking pre-need arrangement, what exactly does that encompass?
A pre-need arrangement or a pre-arrangement is an arrangement made by someone ahead of time. So that's a memorial plan that is arranged by someone ahead of time. You can do everything in detail, or you can make it general. I can tell you what kind of colors and caskets and flowers and things that I may like, or I can just say, give ranges. So it just depends on the comfort level of the person and the family. But what pre-arrangements do is they allow for the decedent or someone to kind of pretty much call the shots from the grave, as they say. You can rest easy knowing that your family knows exactly what it is that you like. They have your wishes at the forefront of their mind. And then, of course, it also helps a lot of people to know that their family is not being manipulated or taken advantage of at a time like this and overspending, so to speak. A prearrangement also kind of sets the price so you know how much things are and how much they will be. And it allows you an opportunity to pay off your memorial plan or your funeral plan and to kind of move on. So once it's paid, you can pay it off and forget it. And the only thing that your family would have to do at the time of death, or at need, as they call it in our industry, is just kind of put the wheels in motion, set the plan into place. Prearrangements are also good because, we're not ready. Our culture is not ready. Our society is not ready. And it allows us to kind of come to terms with what it is that we have, what it is that we may want. And we have to kind of draw a bridge between what we have and what we want, because sometimes they don't always meet.
So you mean to tell me that if I don't have, I can call you and set up a pre-need or pre-arrangement plan,
Hmm.
pre-memorial plan, and can I pay on it?
You can pay
I
on
can
it.
pay on it, so I can put my death on layaway.
You can put your death. You can finance your funeral.
And see, if many people understood that, then they would take advantage of that
Hmm.
because we get hit with a death. Now we have all this money that we have to come up with in a matter of a few days to take
Hmm.
care of the death of this loved one, rather than if we see. I don't plan on dying until I'm at least 80.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. So I got about at least good 30, 40 years to
Okay.
pay on this.
So you
You know,
got time.
I got time to pay.
Okay.
Earl, I don't know when you plan on dying, but look, we got time to pay. See what I mean? So we can put it on the layaway plan. Pay a little few dollars here, a few dollars there. And by the time we go, if we decide to go, by the time we go, it's all paid up for.
You
You
repay.
know. And but no, I mean I try to make light of it, bring some humor to it, but it is a serious thing indeed. And a lot of our people, we don't know because we're not informed. We don't have that information
Hmm.
because this is something that many people don't like to talk about.
Mm-mm.
We don't want to we don't want to go to the funeral home and discuss what color casket that I want because I don't see myself in a casket. I don't
Hmm.
want to view myself that way. But let's face it, we're living in a culture where a lot of people, not just our own persuasion, we have so many health challenges, things
Hmm.
of that nature. We need to start looking at some things, and I'm glad you said it because I said, maybe I need to start looking at some, just start in my mind at least getting some mental preparations together because, I'm not getting any older. I'm
No,
getting younger, and in my youth, you know,
it's not only that. A lot of people, they see everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And
yeah,
and you being a pastor, you always they tell us and they teach us in church that we have to go this way.
we
And
have to go
so,
this way.
am I correct? We have to
You're
go
right.
this way. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And then so we need to prepare for that. We prepare for everything else in our society. We prepare for the birth of a baby. We prepare to go on vacation. We prepare for parties. We prepare for everything else. But this one event that is sure to take place. We never put anything in place where we don't like to talk about. We don't even like to talk about the details or even think about it. And that's something that we kind of have to change our thinking and our mind. We have to wrap our mind around this is something that I need to do. This is what we call the talk of a lifetime. Something that we need to have, a conversation worth having.
All right. Now, we've entitled this Ask Mrs. Mortician. So those of you that's watching, I need you to ask your questions. I see you, V. Tyson. Thank you. I need you to ask your questions or either call in with your questions because we want to pick her brains. There might be some things that you might not have thought about. There might be some questions about death and dying that you need to know. Maybe you have a loved one now that just passed on and you need to know, hey, am I getting a fair deal? Because even in this, you might end up paying more than what you have to, depending on who you're going with.
Mhm.
She can tell you what to look out for. And so, again, 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953, or you can just type in your question in the comment field. So now, the elephant in the room,
Mhm.
the average funeral. Well, let's first deal with cremation, and then we'll deal with the actual burial. The traditional funeral. What is the average cost of cremation? Because many times we go to cremation because we can't afford the traditional funeral.
Mhm.
So what's the average cost when it cost factor when it comes to cremation versus the traditional funeral?
Well, I think it's important first, let's be clear. A funeral service is a funeral ceremony. That's where we have a viewing and we have a service of some sort. And then we have, someone present. Do you want the remains present or do you not? So that would be more of your funeral service, something that we kind of always have at a funeral home or at a chapel or church. Then we have a disposition. So that would be your cremation. That would be your burial. So with that, the funeral service, there are two different costs. with a funeral service, I would say right now in 2019, to guesstimate, a funeral service or funeral would be anywhere from about, I would say modestly, $5,000 to $8,000 for the funeral service itself.
It's just for the service.
That's the service. So that's
Oh,
everything.
okay.
That's like the funeral home. That's the funeral director and staff. That's the embalming, the preparation. That is the viewing. That may be a modest casket selection, as well as anything else, obituaries, death certificates, all those things. Kind of everything we need in order to have a funeral service. Now, from there, when you talk about a cremation, that is the disposition. That's what we will do with the remains after the funeral service. So a cremation can be anywhere from about $350, and it goes up from there. The actual cremation itself. You have the crematory fee as well as the cremation permits and authorizations that are needed in that. From a burial standpoint, every cemetery is different. And so I would say on average right now, you would be looking at anywhere from about $1,800 on up. And so it just depends on the cemetery and the location in the cemetery. Do you own a grave? All those things come into play when you're looking at a burial.
Okay. And cremation starts, you said, roughly about $350.
Right, and it goes up. Now that's added to that funeral cost. So that's added to the funeral cost.
So it's added to that $5,000 to $8,000 cost. Wow. And when we really look at it overall, we might say, well, that's not really a whole lot. But when you have not prepared and now you have to come up with all of this money, let's say your loved one just died. No one expected them to die. And there was no insurance. There's no savings. And now everybody has to pitch in. They call the pastor, we don't have enough money to bury them. Can the church bury them? Well, they weren't members of the church. I know, pastor, but can they bury my son Junebug? Because a lot of pastors get that call. They're not even members of the church, but they get the call to help out. And so a lot of churches have to they have to bear the price of their funeral. But if we pre-plan, then we know the cost factor. We can make preparations for it, and we don't have to be scrambling around trying to put up a GoFundMe page or anything like that. And so that's good to know. I would say if you had at least $15,000 in savings or a policy for $15,000, would that cover pretty much be sufficient?
It would be sufficient.
Okay.
It would be sufficient, and so it just depends on what it is. What's the goal of the family? If you pre-planned, what is the goal that you would like to set for your loved ones?
Okay, and I know you said that $5,000 to $8,000, and that's to be modest because it also depends on the type of casket.
Yep.
And if you want to be in a vault, in a mausoleum, because see, a lot of us, we want high-end stuff, but we don't have the high-end money, So, because the caskets can range. Well, you said, because before you said moderately priced casket. Moderately
priced casket would be one that's about between $1,000 to $1,500. I would say that's a modest casket.
And what's the highest priced casket that you've seen?
They go all the way up to about $40,000.
$40,000 for a casket?
$40,000, yeah.
What about the horse-drawn?
The horse-drawn carriage, it depends on how long you have it. They tend to kind of start at about $1,800. So the horse has to be fed. The horse has to be fed, and so they are nice. They are nice to have, but they tend to start at about $1,500 to $1,800.
$40,000 for a casket
that is just the casket.
Sit in the ground.
That is, but if you want your loved one to have the best.
V. Tyson is saying, please get insurance. Yes, get insurance.
Get insurance.
Or at least have savings that can take care of the cost. But insurance, and people don't always understand that there's a difference between life insurance and burial insurance. Can you give us a little light on that?
Well, life insurance, of course, that is, I guess you could say, what people tend to kind of always gravitate to. Life insurance, there are different kinds of classifications. You can have term, you can have a whole life, and you're paying on it of course, for someone's life in the event that they've passed. But with a burial insurance or burial, I guess they say burial life insurance, that is specifically some people just get for the burial, for the funeral, for final expenses. Sometimes I've heard it called final expense, but those are kind of lower in the payouts. So those are more like 10,000, 5,000, maybe 15 or 20. But that is something that you're just paying for. So you would have to cover the cost that we're speaking about. Life insurance was created to also help your survivors. It was created to cover, of course, any funeral expenses you may have or final expenses, so to speak, but then also to kind of help sustain. So in the grand scheme of things, in the way in our grandma and grandpa days, if anything would happen to grandpa, the life insurance policy was to, of course, help to bury or funeralize him, but then also to help grandma to sustain, because back in those days, he was the one that worked. He was the one that kind of brought the money and things into the house. And so, with grandma being what they would call a homemaker, it was also meant to kind of sustain the family for the future to come without him. And so I would say that would be the big difference about it. But there are companies, they will do a term. So that's a matter of a few years, maybe 30 years or so. So the thing is, it's a gamble. You have to kind of pass within those 30 years in order for it to pay out. There are whole life where it'll pay over the whole life's time. But I would say definitely do your due diligence, do your research, and kind of shop around and find the best fit for yourself and your family.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of people don't understand that there are two different policies and that they can get a policy just strictly for the burial
Hmm.
so that the life insurance is reserved for the sustainability of the family.
Hmm.
You know, pay that mortgage that now that you're gone, that you're in danger of losing at home,
Hmm.
or to purchase a new home because you might need one, or to make repairs and things of that nature to take care of the bills that were
Hmm.
racked up, the hospital bills and things of that nature. So if we don't have to pull from the life insurance, that leaves more money for us to live on
Hmm.
versus burial insurance. And so um, Kelly says it's been a blessing to have you and the family for guidance and direction during the time of loss. And everyone needs somebody that they can consult with when it comes to this type of thing, with death, with burial and funeral arrangement. You need somebody.
Hmm.
Don't just, I admonish anyone, if you lost a loved one, if you do lose a loved one, find a professional in the business. Someone, listen, we all know somebody who deals with, mortuary science. So we know a funeral director somewhere. If you go to church, you know a funeral director. All
Hmm.
right, everybody know the big ones, the Leaks, the Gatlins, and everything. Like, go to somebody that you know. Go to somebody that's reputable. Don't just go to a fly-by-night funeral home that you know barely have any bodies, barely have any movement or activity. Leave those alone. Go to the Because funerals are not something that you really can afford to skimp on.
Hmm.
You really want to send your loved one away with dignity and in pride, and you just want to do your best. And especially if it was someone like your mother, your father, you want to make sure that they were sent away top notch. I joke around a lot. I tell my wife, "Look, just put me up in a chair. I want to see everybody when they come through the doors. I want to watch them."
You're gonna watch them run right back out too.
And I said, "I want a 3-day funeral." But we really, this is funeral, this is serious business. Just as we plan for vacation, just as we
Hmm.
plan for um, you know a daily plan for our lives, we need to plan for the time that we're not going to be here. And I believe everybody should have a life insurance policy somewhere,
Hmm.
at least $10,000 to $15,000 to take care of the funeral costs. Because what do you do when? And that's the question. What do you do when there's no money and you have a body? What happens? What happens?
What do I do, or what does? Well, for the family, it becomes a stressful situation, extremely stressful. Death, losing a loved one in itself is a lot of pain and a lot of grief. But then when you don't have the resources or the means to be able to put them away in the manner that you would like, it then becomes extremely stressful. So what do we do in our society? We have come to rely on GoFundMe's. They're not insurance. They're not also, they're not a sure plan. They're not a sure way because it's an optional thing. I can put a GoFundMe out, but it's up to the people that love and are surrounded by me if they want to donate. So then what happens when no one donates? We then kind of have to put our heads together and our resources together. And like you said, we call the pastor and we say, Pastor, we need help. But it becomes very stressful. And it also becomes stressful on the funeral professional because they want to provide services and they want to help the family, but also it is a business as well. And so then that's where, the two parties will have to meet and come up with some kind of agreement and compromise so where the family can get what it is that they would like, and then the business still can be sustained and be paid for the services that they render.
Now, is there any situation where there's just no money to be found and there's just a body here?
There are situations like that, and it happens often.
And so what happens in that regard?
In that regard, well, when the family to, as they say, disposition their loved one, then the funeral home or the funeral professional then needs to reach out to the medical examiner. And the Cook County medical examiner, they would then have to release the remains back to the medical examiner. From that point, the medical examiner then takes charge of the disposition, and that loved one will then be dispositioned at the medical examiner's expense, meaning that they will either be buried or cremated within that time. But what happens is when the medical examiner does step in and take over, the family loses control and you lose all knowledge of when that cremation may take place, when that burial may take place, even where my loved one is buried. And so that's more of an unfortunate situation and what we definitely try to avoid, because even with the cremains, there's no guarantee that you'll receive your loved one's cremains when they come back. There's no guarantee you'll have a grave marker, at least of knowing, or even knowing what cemetery or where your loved one was buried. So they just kind of become at the state's mercy.
That's what we used to have the term pauper's grave.
Mm-hmm.
There was no money, no family to bury a person, and the state or the government would just put them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question here. What if I don't want embalming? I just want to be buried as is.
That can happen. Embalming is not required that you have it by law. Embalming only becomes required when we have remains present and in the public. So in the case where I may want my loved one to be viewed by the public, then embalming is required. In a case where possibly I may want my loved one to be shipped to another state or to be shipped out of the country, then embalming then becomes required by law. But if you do not want embalming, then you would be looking at something more of a direct burial. And as you said, if the question poses if I want to be buried as is, that is possible as well. Some people don't like to be manipulated in that way. And so they will have a direct burial or direct cremation, and then embalming is not required.
Okay. The call-in number, I got a question. The call-in number is 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. So basically embalming is a way of preserving the body so they can last longer. So especially when we have those times where we're waiting for everybody to come from Mississippi and Arkansas. They died on a Monday. We don't have the funeral till the following Monday. You need embalming, right?
Correct. It would be the best order of business because embalming does not stop decomposition. Decomposition is a natural effect. It is what happens. But embalming retards it, as they say, or it slows that process down, enabling us to wait on cousins and family members to come into town, as well as any other unforeseen situation. So embalming just helps to preserve the remains so that the family can have the service that they are choosing to.
It's a lot of good information that's being given, and we want to make sure that everybody is well informed, because what is happening is that unfortunately our young men and young women, they're losing their lives, and no one expects them to go at that early age. So a lot of
Mhm.
families have never prepared for. They're preparing for Big Mama,
Mhm.
and Granddaddy to go, but they're not preparing for their child to go, being shot down by gun violence and things of that nature. And so we're just not prepared. And sometimes the life insurance policy you have on your job is not enough to take care of things. So we really need to be informed. And the Bible says, "My people perish
A lack of
for the lack of
knowledge.
knowledge." And when we don't have knowledge, we cannot survive. And so this is why this segment is so important, because we need to know, just what we can do to alleviate this burden for our own selves.
Mhm.
And so I'm so glad. Got shout out to Emmett Rule, who's watching, Marshall Hollis, who's watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everybody. Um, so now here's a question I have for you. Um, you mentioned being shipped
Mhm.
from other states,
Mhm.
and we talked about the funeral costs
Mhm.
already. If you're adding in shipping, because a lot of family members, maybe they moved to Georgia, they moved to Texas, but the family base is here in Chicago.
Mhm.
So now they die and they have to be flown in. What's the change in that average funeral price when it comes to involving shipping the body in?
Well, to be honest with you, that change. So you would be adding, I would say, an additional anywhere from about $1,800 to $2,500 onto that, because when someone dies in another state, another city, we then have to enlist the help of another funeral director. And so that funeral director, of course, needs to be compensated for his or her services in that state. And then, of course, they're helping to ensure your loved one get to where you are, where we need to be. So you also have to add in the airline costs. The airline is the most common. You can utilize the
Really?
train system, yes. And then funeral homes, we actually drive people as well. So there is,
In the hearse?
in the hearse. We actually drive them. I myself have actually driven to Iowa. I've actually driven to Kentucky and even South Carolina. So that cost kind of fluctuates depending on the method of transportation. And then, of course, the funeral director, funeral home on the other end. So you kind of add to that cost as well. But it can happen. It happens all the time.
Wow. And so there's a lot of factors. It's more than just putting somebody in the ground.
Exactly.
And then even with the printing of the obituary, and I know because all right. God bless you, caller. You're on the air with Connections.
Hello, hello. This is Karen McGee.
Hey, I know
Hi.
you.
How- yes, I just wanted to say something to Jerry because I'm not the texter.
You still there?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you were just
Yes.
doing a shout out. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Hi.
I just wanted to say that Jerry is super fantastic. Like Pastor said, we've had the, I guess you would say, pleasure of having her work with us. But I do want to say that for, no, no, no. So for our family, she was so wonderful in handling the services for my nephew. And we were just excited that her professionalism was just amazing, and she really helped us through that process. And I don't know if she wants me to give an amount over the phone, but that particular family member did not have insurance, had to be paid. And I'm telling you, they worked with us, and just the whole process, just from everything, death certificates. There's so many things that you don't realize come up, and you don't realize they are important. You don't think about needing them. They just don't come to your mind.
Hmm.
But she was just wonderful in helping us, and she had him looking so good. I was so proud of the work that they did on him. Just looked just like himself, not too made up, not, looking like, who is that? Sometimes we don't recognize the people. But I tell you, she did a fantastic job, and I would just recommend her to anyone because she definitely has that compassionate heart and, will definitely help you get through that situation. Love you, Terry.
I love you too. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess she'll love me.
You know what, Steve? I saw my comment. Is anybody praying for me?
Goodbye, dear.
Love you.
Yes, and I echo that because when my nephew did die, you know, we don't realize what all goes on. We got to go get clothes. We have to get clothes over to
Mhm.
Jerry because she has to dress the body. There's so many things that she needs before the public even sees the body,
Mhm.
and we can call her at any time. It's like what we found out about Darius. Um, and even with my uncle, even with Bishop Hagler, we
Mhm.
called her up in the middle. With Bishop Hagler, we were all in the hospital. And I think it was like about 12 o'clock, maybe
Mhm.
in the morning. Jerry, we need you. And if it's possible, Jerry would get up then. She'll
Mhm.
get up then and come and and come and try to get the body. I mean, so it's it's the service. The service doesn't begin the day of the funeral. It begins from the moment that person passes on and you
Mhm.
contact that funeral director, that's when their job begins for that family. So it's well worth the money that you have to spend. I remember when my uncle passed a few years ago, um, my family was like, wow, they were amazed at the work that you were able to do on my uncle. And sometimes, have you ever gone to a funeral and the person looks better dead than they ever did when they were alive? You go there like, is that Uncle June? Like, ooh, wait. He should have died a long time ago. He looked better.
Casket shop.
Casket sharp. Yeah. So those of you, you have young people that's looking for a career change, looking
Mhm.
for something to do, and they're going to college, don't know what they want their major to be. They've changed their major 4 or 5 times. This might be an industry that they may be interested in looking into because let's face it, I don't think that, like I said earlier, it's not going to go out of style anytime soon. It's not going to go belly up. As long as we're living, as long as we're being born, we are dying. And so, unless the Lord stops the dying process, we all are going this way. But this might be something that they need to look into because, and when they're looking for money, there's money in dying.
Oh yeah.
And so, and Jerry's about to blow up. Tell us a little about you became now you're your own funeral service.
Yes.
Okay, so get some information on that.
Okay, so retailer funeral service. That is a funeral service, of course, that I myself run, as well as this with the support of and love of my husband and my family. So Mr. and Mrs. Jerome Reed and my sister Jory Reed. It's just been up and coming, and it's just always something that I've always desired, and I've always asked God for, and He has just kind of made ways and given provisions that it can be so. And so we actually are excited about it's up and coming. And we, as you said, are excited to kind of branch out and network with pastors and the community and just kind of working with those that don't have everything. And so it is a full-fledged funeral service, everything from the funeral services. I do my own obituaries, custom obituaries, as well as my floral arrangements. So everything, like you said, from beginning to end is done in-house and customized and done by me. And so it is what we like to call a little boutique funeral service because it is unique, but yet it also is big enough to kind of excel in the field that we have today.
And by no means she's talking about a little boutique. By no means is she little when it comes to the industry because she has worked at some of the biggest funeral homes in the city of Chicago.
Mhm.
You want to give a shout out to those if you want?
Sure. Let's say the Illinois Selected Morticians Association that encompasses all the funeral homes in Chicago, but definitely specifically Wallace Bravia Funeral Home, Leak and Sons Funeral Home on the South Side, Burton E.W. Callahan Funeral Home, and Callahan Funeral Home. So those are just a good majority of those that I kind of work with and networking with even now in this day. But definitely all the funeral providers, I give a shout out to those, even not in Chicago, worldwide, because it is a job. And me being a mom and a wife, I still find time to do that. and still be a mom of a toddler. Journey is 4, who will be 40. She's like she's gonna be 40 soon, but
I thought she was for the last year, but that's okay.
4 going on 40. She'll be 5 in January, and then I guess you could say we're still newlywed. My husband Jarrell, and so God is just giving me strength and energy to care for others as well as still care for my own family. And as long as He gives me strength, I'm going to continue to do that. And so we're grateful. But definitely, hello, all funeral directors. And while you're working today, everyone at the cemetery.
And I've worked firsthand with her because she'll call me out. Pastor, I need somebody to come and do this funeral. Well,
Yes.
who are they? I don't, she got very little information. I'm like, okay, so what do I say at this funeral? But she knows that I'm available if she ever needs me to handle a funeral service. And this is the type of service that you would get. She will make sure that you have all things in place for your loved one. And like I said, for my family, my personal family, when my uncle passed a few years ago, I was like, wow, I believe then you were with Leak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're still with Leak, but
Mm-hmm.
you did it with Leak and Sons, and it was just awesome. And so I talk about you everywhere. When somebody says, do you know anybody that can do my uncle? Let me give you this person's name. Her name is Jerry Reed, and I've done that. I remember a young man, John Goodwin. I had to refer him to you because I'm only going to refer the best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to refer the best. And, I don't know many people in the industry, but I do know the best. And you are the best. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm going to refer you. So, Earl, if you need somebody for your funeral services, let her take care of you.
Tell him if I mess up his first one, the next one will be free.
That's right. If she mess up your first funeral service, your next one will be free. It's on the house. All right. If you come back as a flower, if you come back as a pig, your next one is free. All right. So, but we just thank God for you. And again, how can people reach you if they need your services?
If you need to reach me, I can be reached. Phone number is 773-998-3600, or you can visit our website at www.reed.Taylor, Taylor funeralservice.com.
All right. Now, what role is your dad and your mom and your sister playing? Because I know they're not dealing with the body.
They're actually very supportive. My dad, he's more of we're going to call him the fleet manager. So he's managing the cars, making sure they have oil changes, airs and tires, and those kind of things that go on underneath the hood. So he's managing all of that. My sister, she's more of like an office manager type person. And she does love the makeup because she is a makeup artist. So she's helping in that way. And then my mom, she's more of the hospitality. She's like, you got coffee, you got tea. Do you want something to eat or drink? So she's more in the comfort ministry. Okay. So everybody plays a part. And so I'm grateful for my family.
And the man of the house.
And the man of the house, he is the right arm. He is the right hand. He's helping with the removals. He's helping with the strength. And even he does with our daughter. So when mom's out making removals and doing this and that, he's at home playing Barbies and even holding down the house. So I pray and appreciate him, pray for him often as he prays for me. And so it's a team. We're a team.
I'm going to say this. I hope I never need your services, but in the event that I do, I know who to call. All right. But I'm praying that I won't need your services.
To have me and not need me.
That's to need you and not have you. All right. God bless you. We're going to bring her back. She's going to be back maybe in about a month and a half from now, because this is going to be a regular segment. Mm-hmm. Ask Mrs. Mortician. But feel free to stop by the Victory Temple Church of God in Christ every Sunday morning from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. We're located in the Community Presbyterian Church at 2000 West Roosevelt Road in Broadview. Tomorrow's message is favor is fair. I know we're saying favor ain't fair, but favor is fair. Connect with us next week on Connections right here on IntellectualRadio.com.
I've been on this journey a mighty long time. I felt like giving up, thought I would lose my mind. The road's been rough, y'all. The hill's been hard.